It's 10 minutes past the hour of 7 o'clock. Today is the first day of July in the year 2012. Aloha kakayaka. Welcome to the program if you're just joining us. We start this program at 6 o'clock and continue until 8 o'clock. In this earlier hour, we had been talking about a review of what's happening in the Middle East, covering both Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as Egypt and Syria. Having covered some of that, we've also talked about GMO. Is it grossly manipulated organisms? Sometimes they call it genetic manipulation of organisms. And we have been trying to disperse some of the myths about it. The first myth that we've just talked about was that genetic engineering is just an extension of natural breeding. And the truth is that genetic engineering is different from natural breeding and poses special risk. The next, yes, let's go to the next myth, and that is that genetic engineering is precise and the results are predictable. And the truth is that genetic engineering is crude and imprecise and the results are unpredictable. I'm reading this from a new publication. It's called GMO Myths and Truths, an evidence-based examination of the claims made for the safety and efficacy of genetically modified crops. It's printed in June of 2012, and it is by the Earth Open Source organization, and you can find it on the internet. Again, the name of the publication is GMO Myths and Truths, and you can read it for yourself and make your own determination of whether or not the truths are exactly truths and the rest. But the second myth is that genetic engineering is precise and the results are predictable. And this publication says that such engineering is crude and imprecise and the results are unpredictable. If you would like to call and insert your opinions on this matter, our telephone number here is 524-1080. Give me a call. We'll put you on the radio and see what you have to say about these matters or ask questions about them. GMO proponents claim that let's start again. Well, let's start with a telephone call. All right. Aloha caller, welcome to the program.
Yeah, it's me again.
Yes, can you hear me any better now?
I
guess not.
What I understand about GMOs is that they're not prone to diseases or they're not vulnerable to insects. Correct on that?
I think that is some of the claims that are made, and later on what we'll do is we'll cover that particular statement to see if it is a myth, and in the meantime I'll be looking to see if I have that particular subject covered as well.
Oh, okay. And anyway, I bought these pickles, dill pickles, and I read the ingredients, and there's 2 or 3 ingredients that I'm kind of unfamiliar with, but I wouldn't know if the cucumbers are GMOs or organic, right? Okay, so
yeah, and the thing is, they're not required to label it as GMO, which is what one of the fights that we had at the City Hall, asking that they pass a bill to label the products. In some cities, they have required the labeling, but Honolulu did not adopt that requirement.
Oh, so we wouldn't know if the cucumbers would be GMOs or...
You're
organic,
absolutely correct, yeah.
Oh, I see, okay.
And all of the corn products, for example, it's heavily affected by GMO. And but you don't know it. If you buy a can of corn, you won't be able to tell. Or even if the fresh corn that you're eating, you don't know if it's been tainted by some GMO effect.
But when I go to the store, I noticed that the ones that's labeled organic, kind of expensive.
Yeah.
it's really expensive. I mean, like the jams and the cereal, it's like $2 or $3 more expensive. And so, I usually buy the cheaper ones. But
yeah.
I wouldn't know if that's GMOs or what.
Yes.
Like, like corn flakes, it's kind of, I guess, a little bit cheaper. And they're sold in big boxes and stuff. But I noticed the organic one is like really expensive. So
yeah.
I tend to buy the cheaper ones.
That's a problem that we have, our decisions are made based on cost and not necessarily safety. And some people sometimes say that you may save now, but you pay later.
Yeah.
And you hate to hear that.
Yeah. But I also understand that, and what I heard was that GMOs is kind of like a necessity because I need to feed population growth.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing, yeah?
Yes.
Because without GMOs, I don't think that there's going to be enough food to feed everybody. And that might be another problem.
And that is, and we should be addressing that and to see if it really is a myth. You see, as you're asking these questions, I'm going through this book, and what it does is it lists all these different myths, and then it tries to respond to it. So when you just ask that question, the myth I'm going to read to you later on is GMO crops increase yield potential, and we'll address that as well.
Okay,
yeah.
So just listen to you.
Call back again.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Take care.
More questions.
Okay, aloha.
Yeah.
And okay, so with that, his first question was the safety of GMO foods, and so I'm trying to go through and read some of the issues that is being addressed. The first is, of course, the myth: GMO foods are safe to eat. And so let's see how they treat that particular subject. The thing is, many of the subjects are long, or they deal with it quite extensively, and so let's see how much of it we can get through. So first, GMO foods are safe to eat. The truth, according to this publication, studies show that GMO food can be toxic or allergenic. Most studies with GMO foods indicate that they may cause hepatic, pancreatic, renal, and reproductive effects and may alter hematological, that is blood, or hematological, biochemical, and immunologic parameters, the significance of which remains to be solved with chronic toxicity studies. And this is written by, according to Donna A. Arvanitoyannis, Health Risk of Genetically Modified Foods. So they give the publication where this statement came from. There are three possible sources of adverse health effects from GM foods. The GM gene product, for example, the Bt toxin in GM insecticidal crops, may be toxic or allergenic. Second is the GM transformation process may produce mutagenic effects, gene regulatory effects, or effects at other levels of biological structures and function that results in new toxins or allergens and or disturbed nutritional value. Kind of a highfalutin language, but that's what it is. The next one is changes in farming practices linked to the use of a GMO may result in toxic residues. For example, higher levels of crop contamination with the herbicide Roundup are an inevitable result of using GM Roundup ready crops. Evidence presented below and in section 4 and 5 suggests that problems are arising from all three sources, throwing into question GM proponents' claims that GM food are as safe as their non-GM counterparts. And one of the myths that they begin with is feeding studies on laboratory and farm animals. Feeding studies on laboratory and farm animals show that GM foods can be toxic or allergenic. Rats fed GM tomatoes develop stomach lesions, sores, or ulcers. This tomato, Cal Gene's Flavor Saver, was a first commercialized GM food. Mice fed GM peas, not subsequently commercialized, engineered with an insecticidal protein from beans, showed a strong, sustained immune reaction against the GM protein. Mice developed antibodies against the GM protein and an allergic type inflammation response. Also, the mice fed on GM peas developed an immune reaction to chicken egg white protein. The mice did not show immunoallergic type inflammation reactions to either non-GMO beans naturally containing the insecticide protein, etc., etc. So you see that it does have certain impact on the allergicness of to other things. Here again, mice fed GM soy showed disturbed liver, pancreas, and test function. The researchers found abnormally formed cell nuclei and nucleoli in liver cells, which indicates increased metabolism and potentially altered patterns of gene expression. And they go on with some continuing mice test. Rabbits fed GM soy showed enzyme function disturbances in kidney and heart. And there's many more studies that they show. Masking statistical significance through the concept of biological relevance. I'm just leafing through some of these additional information. Okay, one is how misuse of biological relevance places public health at risk. Monsanto GM maize study. And then it talks about the study and how it can affect public health. Let's go to our telephone, our lines here. The telephone number is 524-1080. Aloha caller, welcome to the program. Hello caller, you're on the air. Okay.
GMO. Now, cornflakes, which is one of the most popular food in the United States, breakfast cereals, and I believe all of these are products of GMO production. Now, American children and even myself have eaten for breakfast. It's one of your food staples in America. GMO, since GMO came into existence, is eaten by most everyone in the United States as a breakfast food.
Yes.
Now, compared to Japan, China, Africa, they do not eat this particular GMO altered product. What are the statistics as to the result in the last 20 or more years of children growing to adults? What are the health effects of GMO? I don't believe there's any studies have been done, and I will continue to eat GMO products because unless Foodland or Safeway starts listing, why list products as GMO? Why don't they list products as non-GMO? What's the difference? So if you don't want GMO products, you go on the shelf and eat non-GMO. You can go to these health stores and eat and buy non-GMO foods, but who's going to do that? You go to a shopping center and you start throwing all that stuff in your basket, and you get what you eat, and one of the biggest, more dangerous than GMO is the most popular food in Hawaii is Spam, which is full of nitrates, which causes all types of cancers, obesity, and whatnot. But nothing's being said at Spam. Spam is honored in this state. They even have Spam parades. So
I haven't heard about it.
It's fun listening to these discussions about what's best, what's not best. So I'll just hang up and listen, sir.
Okay, thank you for your call. And let's talk about that. I don't think GMO at the present time should need to claim that it is dangerous to someone's health. I think the science in that area is still developing. There are examples of how some people have gotten sick. The testing in laboratories show that mice will have lesions when being fed some of these GMO products as compared to others that do not form these lesions and the rest. What I believe should be reflected, however, is just as you are showing what is the content in Spam, what is the salt content, and what is the mixture that goes into the making of Spam. There is no fair disclosure of what goes into products that may contain GMO. And what people are saying is that at least you should be entitled to have knowledge of what is made up of your food products, whether or not it's GMO tainted or GMO products are being used or not. If you, for whatever else you take, tobacco is not safe for the human being. And tobacco, you know what the contents of tobacco is. You know that there is nicotine in there. You know that there's other things. With GMO, you just don't know. And all we are saying is that at least have appropriate disclosure like every other disclosure is being made. Now, some people say, well, then why don't you label the non-GMO rather than GMO? You don't label the negative side, you label what has been added to your food product. And if it is identified as GMO-laced corn, then I believe that is the requirement for labeling. And when you do that, it is just those companies that are producing those GMO products that is responsible for the labeling cost, rather than having many others who are naturally producing things. And I believe that there are far more people doing it that way, and so the labeling should not be loaded on them. Okay, so anyway, that's my point. Let's go to our next caller. Our telephone number here is 524-1080. Hello, caller, you're on the air. Okay, I'm not able to hear you, caller. All right, will you please call back? I'm going to release that line. Let's go to our next caller. Aloha, caller, welcome to the program.
Oh, good morning, Poke.
Yes, good morning.
I just have a question. I don't do research, but it seems to me that when they do these things called blind studies, when they do research, the people receiving the drugs don't know which ones they're getting. Isn't that correct?
Yes, at least that's one way of doing those.
I can't hear you, Polka.
I'm sorry. Yes, can you hear me any better now?
I'll turn the radio on.
Oh. I'm trying to manipulate these this board, and
I take it personally. It's my line. It's easier that way. Just forget it. Let's see. Yes, about the knowing whether you're taking something or not. It seems to me that points in the direction that I really believe is that the population is being used as experimental animals, because after all, there are ethics. We're not allowed to do that, according to the law. But we're doing that. They're doing that now so that people don't know if they're taking it, so that the knowledge won't affect the results of the research, and they'll follow it along, and if they see something that they suspect, they're certainly not going to reveal it. So it'll take a long time to see the results, especially that might be affecting our own genetic makeup or so forth. But that's my idea, is that we don't know if we're taking them, and that's deliberate.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll listen in.
Thank you for calling. Aloha.
Kaulana nā pua o Hawaii, Kupa'a mahope o ka aina, Iki mai ka elele o ka loko ino, Pala pala anunu me ka paka